The 2025 NFL Draft is still a ways away, but today on the Commanders Report, I'm going to be talking to all the college football fans out there in Commanders Nation. I'm going to be letting you guys know which college football players that are going to be eligible to be a part of the 2025 NFL Draft that you guys should be watching on College Football Saturdays every single week this fall. Now, let me know, before we get into our first position group here, let me know the answer to this question. True or false? Washington will be drafting in the top 10 of this year's NFL Draft, the 2025 NFL Draft. Will the Commanders be drafting in the top 10? Type T if you think that statement is true, or type F if you think that statement is going to be false to kick off today's show. So first off here, let's talk about team needs, okay? And right now, it is still too early to know for sure what the Commanders will need come the NFL Draft, right? We still have to see which players they're going to re-sign. We still have to see if they make any moves at the trade deadline. We still have to know what they do in free agency next spring as well. So we don't know for sure what team needs the Commanders will have in the first round of next year's draft. But as the Commanders roster sits right now, knowing what we know about free agency, what we know about everything heading into next offseason, I would say cornerback, edge rusher, and offensive tackle are the three most important positions of need for the Commanders as it sits right now, looking ahead to 2025. So let's break these down one by one. And let's start with cornerbacks here, because we know that this cornerback room is in deep trouble, at least here in 2024. Benjamin St. Juste, I think, is fine. I think that he's good in press coverage. He's a long corner. Doesn't have the best speed, but he's very physical. Emmanuel Forbes has just not been good, period, in his NFL career to this point. Hopefully he turns it around by the end of the year. And Mike Samerstill is somebody that I have a lot of belief in, but he's had a really, really rough start in coverage to start his NFL career. So this is definitely going to be a priority for the Washington Commanders heading into next offseason, in my opinion. So let's take a look at my list of the top 5 cornerback prospects for you to keep your eye on here in college football. We're going to start with Shavon Revel Jr. out of East Carolina, the Pirates there. And he is so long, man. He's 6'3". He's got just super go-go gadget arms. He's built like a number 1 lockdown corner in the National Football League. Okay, man, like this guy is a serious, serious talent. Just because he plays for East Carolina, don't let him fool you. He is a physical freak, and I'm really, really excited to see what he is going to do in the National Football League. Keep your eye on Shavon Revel Jr. I think he'd be a great fit here in Washington. Another big corner here, Takario Davis out of Arizona. Is my number 4 corner. He is so big. I believe he's 6'5", another guy with long arms, really physical. He's going to be kind of a press man corner type. That's what Dan Quinn and Joe Witt Jr. want in these corners here. They want aggressive, long, physical corners. That's why Benjamin St. Juste has done pretty darn well in this system so far. I think Takario is a very, very talented player that could certainly be there for the taking for Washington next spring. Then Benjamin Morrison, if you're looking for somebody that is just an absolute savant in man coverage, that's what Benjamin Morrison does. He is Notre Dame's number 1 corner. He is their island corner, which means they put him one-on-one in press coverage just about every single play, and then they shift coverage the rest of their defense away from that number 1 receiver because they trust Morrison one-on-one against the other team's number 1 receiver that much, all right? So having a guy with that kind of expertise in man coverage certainly fits with the man coverage stuff that Dan Quinn and Joe Witt Jr. ran with the Dallas Cowboys and now in Washington. So definitely keep your eye on Benjamin Morrison out of Notre Dame. Number 2 on my list, this might surprise some people, I have Will Johnson as my number 2 right now. Now, don't get me wrong. Will Johnson's going to be a top 10 pick. So if you are drafting in the top 10 and not maybe like top 15 or top 20 if you're the Commanders, Will Johnson will be in play. And he is just a special talent. You guys have heard about him ever since his freshman year. He's been arguably the best corner in football since his freshman year. So he's just been awesome, man. And he is just so well-rounded. He's tall. He's got long arms. He plays with great coverage both in man and zone. One of the most complete corners you will ever see enter the National Football League. Draft might even be a top 5 pick. But the reason why he's not number 1 is because I do have Travis Hunter as my number 1 corner. Now, the reason why he just gets the edge over Will Johnson is that he's got the ability to play wide receiver as well if you need him to. Now, I do think he's probably going to play corner in the National Football League, or at least he should. When you look at Travis Hunter on film, I think that he is a much better corner than he is a receiver, which is saying something because he's one of the best receivers in college football. What he should do is he should be a lockdown number one corner in the National Football League, and then he should have the ability to come in and play receiver on certain key downs for that team's offense, and that's going to give him very unique value to NFL teams come to next spring. So we'll see what he ends up doing here. There's more money in being a receiver than there is a corner, so he might decide to come out as a receiver. But as it stands right now, I have him listed as a corner, and I have him listed as my number one guy. Some honorable mentions at this position. Two guys from the Ohio State Buckeyes worth mentioning here. Davison Igbenuzin, I can't pronounce his name right ever, but Denzel Burke as well. These two corners out of the Buckeyes are really, really talented players as well, and depending on how they do this college football season, they could potentially be first-round picks next spring as well. So who's your guy? Let me know down there in the comments section. Which college football player do you want the Commanders to draft next offseason? Are you a Travis Hunter guy? Is there some other players in college football that you'd rather go out and get? Let me know down there in the comments section for today's pinned comment. YouTube's going to throw you an ad break here in just a couple of seconds. And when that happens, take advantage of that time by answering today's pinned question. So now let's talk about some edge rushers here, and I do think that this is a very good edge rusher class for the NFL draft, at least when you look at it on paper. You look at the defensive line right now, you don't even have a bona fide number one edge rusher, which is one of the reasons why this Commanders pass rush just hasn't been very good to start this season. Cleveland Ferrell is currently injured. Dorrance Armstrong has been pretty much MIA in terms of true pass rushing sets. So when I look at this right now, guys, I think that you could certainly use a number one edge rusher as we approach the 2025 NFL draft. So let's start with the number 5 guy at the edge position for me, JT Tuimoloau from the Ohio State Buckeyes. This guy could have came out last year, and he could have been a first-round pick. He's got super long arms, very physical player. Really like what Tuimoloau brings to the table here, man, and I just can't wait to see him play here this season, and then he's probably going to be a first-round pick come next year for the Ohio State Buckeyes. Then we get to Nick Scorton here, Texas A&M. I really like the physicality that Scorton plays with. He's going to be somebody that is going to be a true power rusher in the league right away, in my opinion. And that kind of skill set's going to be able to be easily translatable for the Aggie here, the Aggie edge rusher, and he could be a really, really good player for the Washington Commanders if they end up taking him. Abdul Carter out of Penn State. Can't forget Abdul here, who is really, really physical. I mean, we know the pedigree of these guys that have worn number 11 for the Penn State Nittany Lions. It is super, super impressive. Physical freak. I think that he's probably going to be a top 15 pick, top 20 at the very least. Abdul Carter is going to be a very big, high upside type of edge rusher heading into next year's draft. Mykel Williams, love the arm length with this guy. This guy has some of the longest arms you will ever see on an edge rusher, and that's going to give him a big-time advantage, and that's going to pretty much allow Mykel Williams to be just as good as he wants to be because he pairs that arm length with some really fantastic traits as well. You can make an argument that this guy's the number one edge rusher in this class, but I'm going to go with James Pierce Jr. as the number one. As a Tennessee Volunteer fan, Joey Peterson pumps himself up here. James Pierce is a special player. There's no question about it. It's very close between him and Mykel Williams. Both of them, I think, will be top 5 picks in the NFL draft this year. So if you're drafting top 5, I do think that the Commanders need to look at adding a number one edge rusher for the years to come. There's also some other really, really good honorable mentions that I wanted to mention here at the edge rusher position. Landon Jackson from Arkansas. Jack Sawyer from Ohio State's also very good. Jack Kelly from BYU, kind of an under-the-radar kind of guy. Jalen Walker, the other edge rusher for Georgia, and then Trey Moore are all guys that could potentially make the first round here in the 2025 NFL Draft. So coming up here on the Commanders Report, we're talking offensive tackles to wrap up today's show. But before we get into the OTs, let's talk about our sponsor today at BetUS, and go to chatsports.com/bet and use promo code CHAT125 to get a 125% deposit bonus with our friends at BetUS when you use promo code CHAT125. So what that means, guys, is that let's say you put in $100 on BetUS to use on your bets. What that deposit bonus means is that they're going to give you 125% of the money that you spend back to you to use on your bet. So if you spend $100, that means that they're going to give you 125 additional dollars to use on your bets. All right. So you're pretty much losing money if you're not using this deal right here. If you're somebody that loves sports betting, you love to do that. You love to make money from your sports takes, all that great stuff. This is an opportunity you cannot pass up. Go to chatsports.com/bet and use promo code CHAT125 to get this 125% deposit bonus before it's gone. So finally here, let's talk about the offensive tackles, because I also think this is a good class for the offensive tackles. And, I've been saying it for months, guys, and I've been saying it even going back to this previous offseason. I'm not a big believer in this offensive tackle room. Brandon Coleman, you did draft him relatively early in this year's draft. Maybe, you don't replace him, but Andrew Wiley, you got to get rid of him, I think, this next offseason. Cornelius Lucas, probably the same thing here. And you got to at least get a right tackle of the future, and then maybe even Brandon Coleman can go over to the right side if you can get a really good left tackle. So I do think tackle is going to be, once again, something that the Commanders look at very heavily to try and improve this offensive line and protect Jaden Daniels. Number 5 on my list, I cannot pronounce this name, guys. It's Ariante Ursary. That is my best pronunciation here of the left tackle out of Minnesota. He is a very talented prospect, man. I think he's probably going to be more of like a later first round type of player, but I really like his ability to play left tackle. I do think he's an NFL caliber left tackle type prospect. Very excited about his future. Josh Simmons from Ohio State is another guy that some people like more than others. Some people have him ranked 3rd on their list. Some people don't even have him in their top 5. For me personally, I'm kind of in the middle. I have him at number 4 on my personal list here. That Ohio State offense is super high-powered, and, they do provide their quarterback, Will Howard, lots of time to throw. Josh Simmons is definitely a part of that. Emory Jones Jr. Is number 3 on my list, and then also Will Campbell, the other offensive tackle from LSU, is on this list. I mean, this is one of the best college offensive tackle duos we have ever seen. Both of these guys are probably going to be top 15 picks. They're both really, really good on their respective sides of the offensive line. And I think that both of them are going to be excellent pros. Can't really go wrong with either tackle from Baton Rouge there. Then we get to Kelvin Banks Jr., my number 1 offensive tackle. Just an awesome, awesome player from the Longhorns, man. He's got everything you look for: arm length, mobility, size. This guy is everything that you want in a franchise offensive tackle. If the Commanders are drafting top 5 or top 10, that's where Kelvin is probably going to end up going, and that's when they would end up taking him if they are drafting that high. A little bit of an honorable mention here. Josh Connerly Jr. out of Oregon is also somebody to keep your eye on. Depending on how he does, I do think he could end up being a first-round draft pick this year as well. So predict it for me down there in the comments section. It's not a Commanders-based question. It's a college football-based question, but I want to know your guys' answer down there in the comments section. Who's going to win the Heisman in 2024? Will it be Shedeur Sanders? Will it be Travis Hunter? Will it be Cam Ward? Will it be somebody else? Let me know what you guys think down there in the comments section, and get your Heisman predictions in the comments section for me. All right, that'll be it for today's show, guys. I appreciate your guys' support. Make sure you guys click that subscribe button if you haven't already, and until next time, go raise some hail.